right. Good cold winter morning, everybody in the chat. It's a good day to be home. It is a good day for me to be having my coffee in my opportunity mug. What a really important day, though. I think we all should, kind of recognize the importance of it. Yes, it's a holiday, but it is also a day of, just somebody who made a very important impact in our world. And before I introduce our amazing guest this morning, the fabulous Rachel Scheid, one of our managing brokers in the city, sent some really amazing quotes from Martin Luther King. So I wanted to pull one that I think we can all put into our minds today. And as we get geared up for another great week this winter for our business. He once said, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. And I think that's true in life. I think that's true in business. I think that's true with family, everything that we've got around us. So I think this morning, no matter where your headspace is at, just by being on this call, you are taking one step forward to help yourself personally and professionally. So thanks for joining us. And I am excited to introduce my guests for this morning. I've got the fabulous Juliana and Benjamin Yeager. So Ben and Juliana, if you are there, you can pop your faces onto the screen. There they are, dynamic duo. We were just laughing because we're all home today. I decided to not try to see if my car would start and get to the Winneck office. I'm actually in my home office, which is new. I'm still working on getting it all finished. And Ben and Juliana are at their home office, and we all have kids somewhere in the other rooms, either sleeping or watching TV and taking a chill day, which is okay by me. So welcome to the two of you.
Thank you for having us. Yes, and we were saying one is still sleeping, so if he pops in, it's just real life,
It'll
guys.
actually be great. I love when those things happen and then they realize, oh my gosh. Although I think since COVID, they've gotten so used to being on screen and all of us being on screen. I remember my kids would be like right next to me as I was on camera during the COVID days. So
Yes, it's our
uh,
world now.
yeah, so we are going to jump into it. So this is week 2 of 25 Jumpstart. And the whole idea behind this 2-week session was to really get all of us collectively at properties, brokers, really in the mindset of just taking action, moving forward, as I like to say in the new year, kind of getting the anxiety out, kind of getting our muscles moving. So just like last Monday, this Monday, we're going to be focusing on the idea of capturing more listings in 2025. And Juliana and Ben, have just a really great history in the business, but also just with at properties. And I've had just such a nice opportunity to see them really grow year over year, starting out at a much more modest even price point and volume into just a really phenomenal team that they have a handful of team members as well, and have just really blossomed into a solid, strong, awesome business. So we thought, let's tap into what their secret sauce is. Let's find out what are some of these things that they are doing that make their business just that much different. So we're gonna take off the slides and we're gonna be in full screen. And I hear my 15-year-old. I think she's mad at me because I'm on video right now. So we're going to talk about the very first question that we asked. We asked last week. We're going to ask the two of you as well, and that is, what are 2 or 3 things that when it comes to working with sellers that are non-negotiables in your listing presentation?
First off, I just want to say thank you so much for everybody being here today. It's January 20th. I cannot believe it's already here. But we are putting our nose down. We are headed for the future. 2025 is going to be a great year. I know everybody, if they do the right things, it's going to be a great year for you too. And I just wanted to put that out there. I feel like the surge of energy is upon us now. And I just want to make sure that energy goes out to that properties crew.
Yeah, it's time to move forward, look forward, and put your head down and grind.
Yes.
I love it.
So there are 2 to 3 things.
Getting back to listings, I wanted to say that.
Yeah.
The first thing, non-negotiable for Juliana and I, we always do our listings together. We always want to make sure that when we're actually meeting those clients for the first time, that they see our face, they know that we're involved in their listings and that we really care. And also it kind of gives two opinions on that property as well. But that being said, we were also individual brokers at one time. Juliana started out before I got into business. So we also understand that if you're going out to those appointments, make sure that you set up those clients for a time frame as far as, hey, this is how it's going to be done. That way, when you go view the property, you're not spending an hour inside of those properties.
Yeah, we really set the expectations from the initial call of how we work. So we really want to make sure when you get that phone call from the seller or an email, you want to try and gather as much information about their timeline and motivation, their any improvements they've done to the home. We kind of have this seller pre-qualification checklist. Sometimes this happens when you're driving. So it's really important to answer your phone, because if you don't, they're just going to go on to the next person. So respond to your emails, texts, and phone calls, and then try to gather as much as you can from that initial call, because it's going to prepare you in the best way for the actual presentation to land the listing. Just having that communication and call and dialogue right away is the best. So we always ask timeline and motivation right away. Any improvements they've done to the home that maybe we can't see or discover online about the property. So going in, if we do need to set a price in the initial meeting, we have as much information, or we've got our range right away from doing our research and getting the information from the seller. We even ask if they have a price in mind. I think that's really important, because sometimes they'll tell you. Many times they say that's what you're here for, but sometimes they'll say, oh, I think it might be something, or I'm hoping for whatever that number is. It gives you an idea where you can pleasantly surprise them, or you can break the news gently if it's if they're kind of not really in line with what it is.
And I
Yeah, I
think
love that because, you know, a lot of times they don't, like, a lot of times they will say, well, that is why we called you. But to your point, sometimes they will say, well, my neighbor's down the street. And, you know, one of the other things that sometimes I encourage agents to ask is, do you know what your Zestimate is? Because so often, like I see mine all the time, right? Because it just gets sort of pushed in front of us, you know, by an email if we're signed up with Zillow. But it just allows you, to your point, to kind of have some sort of idea of like, do they, you know, do they have any sense of value, or are we really kind of starting from scratch when we sit down and talk with them, right?
Yeah, exactly. And 9 times out of 10, if a seller is calling a broker to potentially list their home, they're doing the research. They're already Googling some things, or they heard about a neighbor that sold and they're like, oh, maybe that was a really great number. I don't know if I ever thought my house could be worth that much. And they're considering selling. So you just know that they've done their homework ahead of time. So you've got to really be prepared.
And I think
Yeah.
that's what actually having those questions in line, like if there's ever a time that you feel like you don't have as much paperwork a certain day, or things are just a little bit slower, concentrate on like these little things, like these pre-qual questions, because you may not know the house that went off the market down the street for them. But if you set the stage for that call with asking these questions, you've already asked a ton of questions. So then if they're asking more questions, they kind of feel like, wait a second, give them a minute, because this is definitely a qualified person I'm talking to
Mhm.
and knows what to ask. And then you can again deflect those questions until you get through those properties.
Yeah,
I
and
like
then
that. Mhm.
finally, it's always nice to see if they're meeting with anyone else. Just say, "Am I the only one you've called? Have you met with anyone else yet?" Because it's going to give you additional insight. Sometimes they'll say yes, or you're the only one I've called, or I'm planning on interviewing 2 or 3 agents. It's just going to help you get prepared, and that's really the main reason. And I keep this list. Someone asked if we can share a gathering. I have a notes in my iPhone, just the notes app, and I just keep a little bullet point, and I have it seller pre-qualification. So I'll pull over, pull it up, just make sure it's all on the top of my head and I don't forget anything. And you'll gauge with what the seller, if they want to get off the phone quickly and just set the appointment. But at the end of the day, set the appointment, get the date and time. So I just keep it in there. It's like a bullet point list. It's so basic, but it's crucial. And we've used this over the last couple of years and it's really been a game changer.
I love it. It's very ninja-esque. If any of you have taken ninja, we also do this when we talk about getting what you're worth and kind of having that first conversation. To your point, Juliana, just sort of being ready with, and what I love about it too is, and Ben, to your point, is it shows that you've done this before, right? Because Juliana's driving, she pulls over and she says, "Hey, listen, I'm so happy that you called. Before we set an appointment to come and take a look at your place, there are always a standard list of questions Ben and I like to ask so that we're fully prepared meeting with you in person." I love setting that stage. That means that you've done this before and that suddenly you're taking control of the process, which is what they're looking for. They're calling you because you're the expert. And so just for everybody, I had written down, so it's timeline is what you ask, motivation, improvements about the house so you know what you're jumping into, the price that they have in mind, and they may just say that's your job, which is perfectly great, and then you talk or you ask about competition. Is there anything else that's on your list that you make sure of? It looks like those are kind of the big five that
Yeah,
you're
those are kind of the main nuggets that you want to try and get. If it gets too long, then the call may just drag
Yep.
on. The goal is to set the appointment and gather as much as you can. So really that's it. If you Google that, well, if you pull over and you try to, while you're talking, pull up their property address and you see they've lived there for 25 years and there probably isn't any information on it. That's when you want to really ask if they've done renovations over the years and when, and just that's really helpful for your own pitch when you actually get into the house. And then that's kind of leads into when we get there, we set the expectation on the call of how we're going to do it. We say, well, we're going to do a quick tour and then sit down and talk about the marketing and the pricing and our listing strategy.
Mhm. And do you usually try to close them then to get them to sign a listing agreement? What is your process kind of at that point?
Well, I think that those questions set you up for that because are we going to have to be on point as far as our number? Because if they already have a number, you have to have that in your mind as you're pulling comps, even though you haven't walked through the property. So we do bring a few comps within that given area, but we also have to understand. I mean, we've walked into houses where they're like, it's a big Victorian, and we've done some renovations over the years, and it was a beautiful place. That was like 7,000 square feet. So you really don't know.
Yeah.
But you have to go in there and just walk through and have that idea in your mind. But we don't give the price at the listing presentation. If
Okay.
it's like a two bed, two bath in Lakeview, and I can feel like, hey, through my questions, I have competition, I'll probably try to close that one.
Mhm.
But if it's something that has a unique feature, a little bit more square footage than some of the other comparables, that's when we say, let us go back, let us noodle on the properties again, just to make sure that we come up with the right place, the number. Because and we say, somebody may just give you a number, but is it the
Mhm.
right number? We want to have a little bit more thought.
Yeah.
But if you know you have competition, try to close it then, because we've even said, let's just sign the listing paperwork. We're going to come up with a number prior to setting the photos. And we'll do that, but you just don't want to give everything away because then you're just sometimes checking numbers for somebody else.
Yeah, I love it. And to your point, it's some of it is just you kind of have to call an audible, right? At the moment, you kind
Yes.
of are gauging the connection that you're having with the seller. But so important to know about competition, right? And let me ask you this about competition. Want to be the first one in, the last one in? Do you care? Any thoughts? Because I know a lot of agents sort of ask, when should I be getting in if I do know that there's competition?
Yeah, sometimes you can't control it. You just want to get in. And
Mhm.
you're going to tell if you're really vibing with the sellers right at that moment. And you can tell if they want to set that price with you right then and there. You're going to be able to tell. You just can't control whether you're first or last. And I've asked, and sometimes they say, yes, I'm meeting with a few other agents and you're the first one I've called. So be it. We're going to be the first ones in and we're going to try to nail that presentation that so that they want to cancel the next ones. And that's
Mhm.
happened before where we are the first one in. They're like, this has been so great. We really connect with you guys. We're canceling our other appointment and we're just
Mhm.
going to move forward. We don't want to waste any time. Let's do this. So that's
Yeah.
the goal. You want to make sure that they're like, let's do this. And time is of the essence. Like, you want to make sure you are fully prepared. If there is a range, try to really tighten it up. If it's a house in your neighborhood or condo, like, you should know those numbers and you should be studying that data every single day. If we get called on a house in our neighborhood, like, we know what every single house should be selling for because we study the data every day. So, yeah, we always try to nail it if we can, but can't control that.
And the
Right,
most important thing is just getting in front of the sellers, because there have been times where, like, we're not available till Wednesday and they call you on Monday. And we've had the seller say, hey, I decided to sign with the other person. Just make yourself available if you want that listing. And if you set that time frame from the initial call, sellers tend to get tired after about 45 minutes. So if you just keep going on and you haven't even talked numbers yet, just know you're going to lose that listing. If you can set those numbers prior to that 45-minute mark, they're going to be more inclined to sign because it's within the hour time frame.
Yeah.
More is
someone,
not always better, right?
Yeah.
More
yes.
time is not always better sometimes. Yep.
Yeah, someone asked if you can do TBD on the listing agreement. You cannot. And you
Mhm.
cannot do a range either. So what we're saying there is we want to get their signature so they're signed with us, and we're going to set that price before the paperwork is in. So, and that might be within 24 hours. We're signed and then we get the price in because we want to have that be a decision between us and the seller. So, yes.
Yeah, I think that is a great process. Like, if you have the paperwork there, you can get them to sign it. It is an agreement, right? And you probably can just once you even technically get the price filled in, let's say you have to go back to the office, figure it out, call them, you have a conversation. You could even sign it over and just have them acknowledge, that's
Initial.
just super easy, kind of if the price is left blank, Holly, it's not a fully executed agreement. But what I think you sometimes need to do is get them to feel like they are solidifying something with a
Yeah.
signature, correct? And so just make sure, though, that you do technically have them acknowledge the price. You can just have them DocuSign, like, initial it afterwards if you need to. So, sometimes it's like we have to do the right paperwork, but I understand there is the way, we also have the need of making sure that mentally and by writing they've kind of committed to you. So good
Exactly.
questions, though. Great questions. All right, I love this. This is some really good information about kind of what you do to make sure that you win the listing, right? I mean, that's step number one: get them to sign it, get them to move forward. But then what I think is also just as critically important, because one listing that you do extraordinarily well allows you to get more listings that you can continue to service very well. So the magic is in not just getting them to sign it, but making sure we do an incredible job servicing the listing. And I think this is the point where you tell them you're wonderful. Now you show them how great you are. So I want to understand from the two of you, what are two or maybe three things that you incorporate into every one of your actual listings? Like, once you get it signed, what are some of the things that you do that make sellers say, holy cow, they did an incredible job selling my home. It was a great experience. And ultimately they want to become referral partners, brand ambassadors of yours. So share with us some of the secret sauce that you all incorporate into your listings.
I think that, looking at, like, earlier in our career, Juliana and I have been through 2009, 2010, like, bleak years. We've been through 2020, where it's a great year. But,
Well, the COVID year.
well,
And then
COVID.
lots of
Right.
shifts.
Luckily, we've had good years.
Lots and lots
We
of
put the
shifts.
bad years behind us overall, but you have to understand that a listing is like, it's everything. And even if it's your first one, fifth one, or 10th one, you have to make sure that you go into it with the right mindset of, there is not enough money that I'm going to spend that I'm not going to give back. And honestly, you might want to even spend extra to make that listing perfect, so that you're going to work just as hard to get that thing sold. Do not go into the mindset of, hey, the first 6 months are going to sell quick, so maybe I can just do like one photo shoot, or I don't need to do any video. You have to go into it with, I'm doing video. If you've seen Juliana and I, a year ago, I was not too into video. Now it seems like everything we do is online, just because we want to get interactive with our clients, and we want to take advantage of our listings and make sure that one listing leads to another listing. We make sure that we have the greatest photography through those relationships that we've used and what works best for us. But we look at every dollar that we spend on a listing as a dollar well worth it, because we know we're going to work incredibly hard to sell it. And you just get out of the mindset it's going to sell quick, I don't need to do everything. Just plan your listing and use it.
Yeah.
'Cause
Well,
it's
your listing is
always,
your marketing, right? I mean,
yeah,
Yes.
like the more you do with that, everyone sees it. And yeah, it's about selling that property, but it's also about like, holy cow, look at what they do when
Yes.
they market. So tell me, I do see you online a lot, which I love. But tell me a little bit about what specifically do you do when it comes to creating exposure for your listing?
Yeah, so well, to backtrack just a little bit, so some of the things that we do when we get the listing, we make sure to over communicate. Like you cannot communicate enough with your sellers because they have been told over and over that realtors just stick it in the MLS and wait for a contract. So you want to make sure you are setting the expectations and the timeline of what we do on the back end from the start. So once we get that listing agreement signed, we tell them a step by step of what's next. So we send them an email with the executed listing agreement and say, okay, here are the next steps. If they don't live in the property or if it's vacant, we're going to be there on this date to take the photography, the floor plans, the videography, and we use listing videos with app properties to create bank content. So also we just don't have photos out there and then that's it. Because not every property will sell in the first 2 weeks. So we want to make sure we bank content so that when we're delivering our update to the seller of how things are going, we can tell them what we're doing on the back end, what kind of views we're getting, what kind of hits we're getting. So specifically, we do VHT photos. We always do a high-end package. We use Real Vision photos as well because we really like their platform as far as shareability and the walkthrough tour. So, but we prefer VHT's crisp videos. So we tell our seller, no, not crisp videos, crisp photography. So we tell our sellers that we have a print photographer and then a digital photographer. So we give them both experiences and then we share everything with them. We want them to see what we're doing without them having to find it online. So we're communicating that. And then we use listing videos to do reels and long form. I know a lot of people have kind of shied away from long form video with YouTube, but we still like to do that because it's out there forever. Once the house is sold and closed, someone's Googling for a realtor in the area, our videos are out there forever. So touching on what Benjamin just said, using the one listing to get another and another, your content is going to help you do that because people are online researching for, and they got to find you. If you're not out there and you're invisible, they can't see what you do.
Yeah, I love it. I have noticed just how, deep you have gone as far as creating a digital footprint for yourselves and for your listing. So it's super noticeable. You definitely do more than others out there. Quick question about communication. Do you have a specific date or time when you are communicating to your sellers, and is it on a weekly basis? Do you have anything kind of structured?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is definitely on a weekly basis, and it is not a set date and time because that doesn't work for us. And we don't want that expectation like we're gonna do it on Tuesdays at noon for every. We say it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You're gonna get your weekly update, and we even say sometimes we have more showings or things going on, and we want to wait till to get more feedback. So it's Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays for us, and it kind of depends on our volume and what's going on in our daily lives too.
And those are super important because we still call our sellers and or text or email, whatever their preferred mode of communication is, like
With
before we do the
updates.
listing and then also after the showing. But after the showing, nobody's going to say, I absolutely love your house, I'm going to buy it, I'm sending in an offer today. They're gonna you want to know who came through it. Was it a single person? Was it a couple? Like who came through today? And what can you give me information? Do they live in the neighborhood? Have they been looking a long time? Anything you can get without asking them 50 questions. It has to be in a nice, smooth manner.
Because how many times have you done a showing and they don't give feedback?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's what we like to give our own feedback of how it went.
Yes, and don't, as an agent, don't think just because you're communicating after showings that it's enough, or if you're saying, hey, did you see that one on, 2 blocks over that just went under contract? I'll be looking into that. The seller's going to forget, you're going to forget, and it doesn't keep you accountable. This keeps the client accountable, but it also keeps you accountable. So you're not getting that phone call saying, did you see that one that just closed?
Yeah.
No.
The worst thing that can happen is that the seller is reaching out to you for an update. Then you've failed. So you kind of have to gamify it too. You want to make sure you're staying on top of it and you're keeping yourself accountable, sending the updates. And we include the feedback, which we call and text or email. We share what the initial feedback was the same day, but then we recap it so that they can read it and understand, okay, is it my property? Is it something I can change? Or is it just the marketplace? Because you do not want them blaming you, the agent, because everybody wants to. Everyone wants to blame the realtor and that it's our fault. But if you're explaining the data, what the feedback from the buyer was once, and we follow up a lot from with the agent, and sometimes they get back to us and sometimes they don't. So we enter in our initial feedback as well as when we get the follow up too, and then we send it to them, including the data on the market. If we haven't sold, what has? So we include all the data so that when they get it, they're like, and we have to ask for a price reduction.
It's all there for them,
Much
right?
easier.
It's all
They
right in
just
front.
get it. They just get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Quick question before we move on to another topic, because I do think this is really important, and we talked a little bit about this. So you get under contract. What communication is super important, and do you try to manage from contract to close? Because I think that sometimes is where things can kind of fall apart. So
Huge.
are there any tips or ways that you handle this to make sure that
Yeah.
things continue to go smoothly?
I'll say one thing and then Benjamin will get into detail because he is so good with the attorneys, but do not let the attorneys manage it. You are running the show. You've got to make sure you are staying involved the entire way.
And that is okay to do. A lot of times we work with another agent who's like, let's just let the attorneys handle it. They've been doing it for 5 years, 20 years. Everybody has a different approach, but remember, you get to control the way you manage your business and you can
Yeah,
be.
you've got the relationships. The attorney really doesn't. So make sure you are involved.
And don't have an adversarial relationship, in the negotiation with the agent. I just had a call just recently with another ad agent who I love, who I'm doing a deal with. And I got their attorney review letter. It's a little bit different than I expected. I called her, didn't get it. She called me back. We ended up texting. We both were on the same page. And that type of thing, it's going to be done by Tuesday now. Like Martin Luther King Day is today, but we don't have to worry about how our attorney is going to respond to their attorney. We don't have to worry about the fine details of the writing being miscommunicated to both parties. We want to be active within that. And the agents that just let the attorney handle it, it's hard to get those negotiations done sometimes. And she's one of our favorite agents because she actually does the work. Everybody should do it.
Yeah, if you get a letter on a Friday, don't be afraid to try to communicate with the other agent and say, hey, is there anything we can work out over the weekend? So all we have to do is let the attorneys know we've already agreed on these inspection items. Because as you know, it's a holiday today. We keep working over the weekends, but the attorneys don't. So then you can just prepare your email, send it off to the attorney, and then it will make your attorney review process that much more efficient and close out so you can move on to the next steps.
Yeah, because time can be a deal killer, right? The longer the
Yes.
time goes on, that can play not in your favor, right? So it's like momentum, keeping momentum going.
100%.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
also
Stay
like
involved.
keeping the relationship with your seller because the attorneys, they have a lot of stuff going on. And those letters always seem to take longer and longer and longer unless you're on top of them. And if you can get a call out and say, hey, Kirk, I need to get this letter out today, even if it's 8 p.m., you have to have that communication because if the buyer or the seller is like trying to communicate with the attorney, they just don't have that relationship. They have that relationship with you. Take care of them.
Yeah, I love it. All right, I'm shifting to a different question. I think it's kind of interesting. What did you spend time on in the past that maybe you don't do as much today? Or did you put something else kind of into place that was more effective?
I'll let Juliana talk about this one.
Oh yeah. Okay, so this was actually interesting. There was a period of time we were doing lots of brokers opens and they weren't working and we stopped. But now I've got to say I think that they're working again. So I think there's never a period of time where something just works, then it doesn't, and then that's it. It's over. So we started doing brokers open again, but we fine-tuned how to invite people, how to host them. And I mean, we make them a little bit more fun and engaging, and give people a reason to show up at our brokers open too. And it's not just necessarily a giveaway, even though we do a lot of that too, but also just to give the brokers an opportunity to have something to talk about with their clients. We did a PLN brokers open right before the holidays, like 5 days before Christmas. And there was really nothing going on in the market, but all three listings were off market. And we had about 25 agents come through all
Wow.
three. And right before the holidays, that's really big.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Yeah.
sound like a lot, but to me, that was a total success. And they were able to then call their client. It's a benefit for us and our seller, but it's a benefit for the agents too. We want them to be able to call their client, talk about the property, see the other brokers in there, have a conversation with us, have those connections and relationships. So then when they come back with their buyer, write an offer, I'm gonna be so excited that they came to our tour. So that was a switch that we started doing again. And they take work and they take planning. So it's not like just throw it on the MLS and hope people are showing up. But that doesn't
I
work.
love that though. I love that, that is a really clear like testament to really always just watching the market that you're in, what's working and what isn't, because just because to your point, you've taken something off your radar, it might be worth it for it to come back. So it's always constantly like evaluating, are we doing everything that we can to be maximizing our opportunity and, just using all the tools in our toolbox, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
working with other agents. If you have someone that has a listing close by or in the same building, collaborate together. Power in numbers is super helpful, and it's a benefit to you and to them because double the exposure because they have their whole database too.
And if
Yeah.
you're in business, you at least get FaceTime with somebody who you maybe not haven't worked with in the past. But then if all of a sudden you have a contract, maybe not even on that particular property, but another one, you
Yeah.
can put the name with the face. This is someone who I think can get the deal done. You can't just think in the present, you have to think in the future as well and how it can benefit me, because you have to be doing real estate related activities or you're just going to be some person.
Yeah, it's a really like a holistic approach, right? So
Yeah, and
I
I
love.
love it when you guys come. So come and visit our brokers opens because we like talking to everybody too.
Right.
This can be a very lonely business where we're all working from home or no one's in the office sometimes. So visit. People like we
Yeah.
want everyone to come.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yes, creating community is super important. Um, Question, if you didn't get business in the past, because we don't get every listing, right? Is there
True.
any self-reflection or evaluation you do every time to just kind of say how, what can we do better? Or, maybe you mourn it
Yeah,
for 24 hours and then you're on.
Yeah, I mean,
totally.
I think that at the conclusion of any listing presentation, Juliana and I, we usually are talking to each other saying, what did we do bad? What can we work on? Just
Yeah, we
because
ask for feedback from each other immediately. We leave and we go, okay, feedback. Feedback, did I talk too much? Well, how did we do?
because I really just I think it's just a finite amount of time where you have that person's attention. And even if they lead the conversation where we've made mistakes with in the past by letting them lead too much, once they stop talking, they're done. They're like, well, I've said everything I want to do. Let's just move on. Because you really just have to set the stage with those initial pre-qual questions to letting them know how long you're going to be within the property. And you as agents just knowing, hey, I have to be done with the tour in 15 minutes. I have to have my numbers out in my marketing in 20 minutes. And then if I feel like I can secure this today, I got to do it. Like you have to be thinking on that tour, I can close them today, or they're going to need more time. And just having that in your mindset so that you can do a good job. And if you don't do a good job, if you're rushing to the office to get your CMA at the last minute and you're disheveled or you're not wearing something that makes you feel awesome, then that's on you. And you really have to say, I could have done better. And I just gave that listing away to somebody.
Yeah, preparation leads to success every time. And certainly we've been rushed or frazzled and you learn from it. You learn from mistakes always. And like he said, if you don't set the expectation of how long, if you are going to do the tour and the presentation in the same day, which does often happen to us, we can't always get there and then have a second meeting. So we really try to set the expectation of how long the tour will take. And we have totally made this mistake, and we're touring the property for an hour because the seller is so in love with the property. But by the time it's over, they're exhausted, we're exhausted. We're then rushing to get everything out in 10 minutes because we have got to go to our next appointment. And that never works. And it has definitely happened before where we didn't get the listing because of something like that.
And stay on task too,
Stay on
because
task.
we have 3 kids. We love to talk about how, we work in the area, we work together, have 3 kids, do all the sports. But we even have to stop ourselves sometimes because it's like, it's about the house.
Yeah.
Like, give yourself something to identify as one, and if no kids, restaurants in the area, shops in the area, but we have to
Chameleon.
keep it to a minimum and make sure we're talking more about the house. I feel like too many times it's like, let's be friends. Let's work for you.
Right. Did they hire you to be a friend, or did they hire you to sell their house, right?
Yeah.
That is a really great message, because I think sometimes as agents, we go so far to try and over connect. And to your point, we run out of time to show them the reason why they really called us. So I love that point of pick one, maybe 2 things to connect on, leave it at that, and then get to business. Awesome.
Yes.
All right, want to ask you this. What are the best tools that we have at App Properties that you use consistently to service your sellers?
Totally. I love the digital CMA. We use that constantly for sellers and buyers when we're running our analysis. I love it. So we use the digital CMA all the time. We love listing videos. We use them. They've come a long way. I've worked with them very closely to get them more savvy and more just like on trend. And it's been awesome. So we use them for every listing. And
we've tried everybody, but
yeah,
they
we've
really
used
do
Drone Hub.
a great
We've used
job.
like random videographers. We've tested everything. So we love it. We love listing videos. It's also very efficient to give you the content back, so you're not waiting weeks on end to get your stuff, and that's very frustrating. So what else?
I mean,
HT.
even like the listing books that App Properties gives us,
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, it is remarkable. I mean, we used to have a trapper keeper, not an actual trapper keeper,
Trapper
but
keeper.
like a bifold folder
It was
where
a trapper keeper.
when we worked at Remax, we've been at App 14 years now. And it was like you had to like print off something, put it in this binder. It was terrible. I mean, we literally saw an App Properties brochure in a listing that was vacant. Incidentally, we had a lot box. And I'm like, if we're going against this person, we're screwed. We're screwed. Screwed.
So all the marketing, all the materials in the office, everything that's at our disposal, we use everything. I mean, from the platform to the actual tangible materials are just so phenomenal. And if you have a luxury listing, something over $1 million, definitely send out the luxury listing letter. Again, have it in my notes. So I just click the link, fill it on my phone. I can click the link, fill it out, send it to them. Whether or not we have the signed listing agreement, we have that letter go out because it's just impressive.
And I mean, the reason that we do those brochures or the incredible photography is because we're also bringing a past brochure to that property. Hey, this is what type of work we do, which is App Properties related. And they look a lot better than some of the places that you go to, which is on a piece of paper. I mean, you have to set yourself apart and don't rely on App Properties just doing everything for you, which they certainly can, but go that
You
extra
gotta,
mile.
use it and make your
Yes.
presentations look beautiful and match, even if it's a $250,000 condo or whatever it is, or under 200, it is important to that client. It is the most money for them. So make it look fantastic no matter the price point. Oh, and then Ellen, hi Ellen. Listing videos is with App Properties. So it's right in your DMS. You just click the button and schedule your video.
And their email is listingvideos@appproperties.com. So if you have questions, you can get right to them.
The videographers are awesome. They will work with you. If you're nervous about being on camera, they will have an initial call. You don't have to be on camera. You can just walk around, like just try.
And you are a newer agent or an agent just who's been in the business, but just not getting the sales that you want. I mean, there are times when I'll talk to our assistant and be like, do we have something for this? And they'll be like, yeah, Properties has it, go online. and then I'll find it and be like, why aren't more people using this stuff? Because to us, it's like if we work from home, but we're not actually doing anything, but telling ourselves that we're doing something, go to the office. It's great. I know you're going to talk for a little bit, but you're probably going to do more work than you actually would at your home. And it also will give you an option of going online and finding like a new program, the
Or just
digital
hearing,
listing
yeah, hearing
presentation, like,
conversations.
figuring it out to where you feel comfortable doing it. Because I find too much, it's like people, this is not a customer service job. It's not like, oh, I'm great with people, but you got to get the clients
Mhm.
and be at the office, work hard, and they will come. They really will.
Yeah, being in the office is like a lost art. I think if it were me and I were starting again, I'd be in the office all the time.
Yes, we
Yeah.
have beautiful offices. I love the
I
office.
love the
Be
office.
there as much as possible. You're gonna hear people talking. You're gonna get an energy. You're just gonna learn a lot. A lot of people learn just by
Yeah,
listening.
yeah,
We're
Ask
out, we're
questions.
out in North Center, and I'll go down to Goose Island just to feel cool. Like, hey, what's going on?
just
Yeah.
feel cool. See me,
Yeah.
run into me sometimes. All right, big question. We've got just a couple more as we wrap up. Quick ones. Commissions. What is kind of your go-to when you get a commission objection or somebody actually asks, in that initial phone call of yours, what if they ask you about commission when you're first on your pre-qual? Is there anything that you say that, are there any go-to like quick things that you say?
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly, people do ask about commission on the initial call, but surprisingly, there's probably less so than a lot of the other things, or maybe because we're asking them so many questions, we just sort of run out of time. But we try to say we're going to offer a competitive commission. We will go into it in detail when we meet, when we go over the listing paperwork. But when we talk about the commission now, and it's built in on the contract with the listing side, we still talk about the buyer side and what you can expect when you receive an offer. We're signing our listing agreements with the what's written right there on the contract for our side, but we make sure that the seller knows what to expect, so they're not like, well, wait, we don't have to offer the buyer's agent a commission. We fully set the expectation so that they know and understand. And honestly, we have not gotten any like pushback from that. People just have questions like, is the buyer commission gone? That's mainly what the misconception is. And we say, no, this is how you're going to see it come through when we have an offer. So we sign the listing agreement with what they're going to compensate us. And then we're going to receive an offer of what the buyer has agreed to pay their agent, but they're going to ask you to compensate them. And so this is what we can expect. And we show them the compensation agreement.
And I mean, we still explain it, not to nauseum, but we make sure that we cover it quickly enough and concisely enough so they understand if we have this offer and it's at 2.5 and you want to negotiate and it's at 1.5 or 2 you want to pay, if we lose it, are you going to be okay with that? Is it worth it? And we always know what the difference is in our head for a couple $1,000 not to go with this buyer, or if we get multiple offers and one's a great agent who we have a relationship with because we've met you at a broker open or done a past deal, do you want to go with the unknown? I don't know. And
Yeah.
that's why it's just, you have to talk to them about it, but you're out for their best interest. And I know it's going to be difficult as we get into multiple offers because even high-end agents are telling their clients you can negotiate, but the industry,
We're really trying to set the expectation to respect buyers agents too, because we're buyer agent as
yeah,
well. And we really want to make sure that everybody's compensated for their time and their professionalism, and we want them to bring a buyer. I am getting a question nearly all the time when someone is ready to make an offer, it's saying, is your seller going to compensate? So that is why we're having that conversation initially at the listing presentation when we're talking commissions, so that they know, and then they'll say, we are willing to compensate. Sometimes the sellers say, as long as it's 6% or less, we're willing to compensate whatever that is. But we don't pigeonhole the seller of what they're going to put on the listing agreement. We want the buyer's agent to come to us with what they have agreed in their buyer rep agreement.
Love it.
Then
Yeah.
we'll go
And
from
that's the
there.
way that it really should be, right? You've kind of set the tone of what you're expecting from the seller, but really teeing up that they should expect that this is going to be part of the negotiation piece, right? But leaving it open
Right.
to see what is being asked of you and the seller. So
And we've talked to agents too, who asked 2.5 and their offer was not the greatest offer. And honestly, they don't have anything to back it up to say this is why. And maybe we'll negotiate within that. But if you know your stuff, you're gonna get paid.
Yeah.
But don't come unprepared.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think this year we're going to see that. I think it's going to be a great opportunity this year, everybody, for great agents who are prepared, know their stuff, and know how to articulate their value. And that is every single one of you out there. If you are just practicing, taking a look at these videos, and just know that most people out there don't get this stuff. The communities do not collaborate the same way that we do. There's so many of your colleagues that are willing to work with you, your managing brokers. So just know that you have the opportunity to really differentiate yourself this year. And I think we're going to see a big separation of true valued brokers who are sophisticated, full fee, full service, who is all of us, and kind of these others that are trying to figure out how can I even sort of survive in this market.
Yeah.
So wrapping on this, I've got one last question, pro tip. So everybody out there, we're getting ready to jump off, maybe get our second or third cup of coffee. Maybe some people are still in their pajamas. I mean, I might be in my pajama pants here. No one's ever going to know. But pro tip, as we get out of here, what should you tell everybody in this market? What should they be doing?
Yeah.
I would s- I would
Work hard, work hard.
yes, work hard. I had a buyer yesterday and we saw 3 houses, 2 are opens. Open houses are just as important. I mean, make sure that you have a great presentation with signs, with your note on the door. Be early. Be conscious of that too when you're going from open house to open house, because I met a gentleman, he was super nice, but his I wouldn't have known if he was the agent and or just a person. So if you're hosting an open house, make sure that they
You're
recognize you
professional.
as the agent.
As the
I
agent.
mean,
Yes.
like, be dressed nicely because it's your first. I mean, if there is an opportunity, first sell the house. I know when you're hosting opens, you're like, I want to get buyers. Sell the house, and if you do a great job selling the house, those prospective buyers will want to work with you.
So true.
And don't be late, because somebody had me, a respected agent, outside for 10 minutes because they had somebody covering the open who was late and didn't leave
Oh
enough
boy.
time.
Mhm.
And it was 15 degrees or 8 degrees. I was frozen. Just know that open houses are great, but you have to treat them like gold.
And treat them
Like,
like your own listing.
yes.
Like you're getting an opportunity. Don't, and maybe they're paying you, maybe they're not, but take it as an opportunity like it's your own. Maybe even show up early the day before, print off some flyers at the office, have the front desk person or send it to the MLS, whatever office to print some colored flyers for you, and then drop them off at the neighbors. If you don't want to go up to the stoop, bring some rubber bands and put it on the fence. Invite the neighbors to make sure it's a successful open house for you. I mean, our open houses were bumping yesterday and it was freezing. So today should be the day for following up. But like he said, go in it with study, research that open house, make sure you know everything about the neighborhood, and you're going to shine. And the buyers are going to say, wow, this agent knows everything about this. They're awesome. I want to work with them.
I love it. Open houses are not dead, people. That's how I built my business years ago. So that is your pro tip as we head into this spring market. I love that yours were bumping this weekend.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you to both of you because Ben, I noticed you did get up and you put a suit on. Juliana, you look beautiful as always. But look at this, Monday morning, holiday.
We're going to the office later. We've got
Rest
a
for
client
success,
coming in.
baby.
Yeah, visit us at the office. We'd love to see you.
Yes. Well, thank you to both of
you.
you. Really
Thanks,
appreciate your time. Thanks everyone who was on. Tell others who maybe didn't make it to check out the video. We did record this and tune in on Wednesday when Paul is back to talk about buyers. So thank you, everybody.